In the 37th century of the Galactic Standard Calendar, the vast expanse of space had been meticulously organized, catalogued, and bureaucratized by the Galactic Union, a conglomerate of over 17,000 species, bound together by little more than paperwork and fear. The Union's crowning achievement was the Advanced Classification System, ACS, a comprehensive framework that categorized every conceivable threat on a scale from 1 to 10, with each level containing subcategories, appendices, and elaborate protocols that required multiple authentications across several administrative layers. The ACS was revered as infallible, governing everything from interplanetary travel to waste disposal regulations. Vexi. A senior survey technician aboard the Tethkari vessel, Prudent Inquiry, stared at the scanner readings with growing unease. The ship had been tasked with the routine verification that Sector 847 Zeta, a region quarantined for 3 centuries, remained safely contained. It was supposed to be a standard procedure: scan, document, file report, receive commendation, advance promotion timeline by 0.02 units. BX Sky. Could you recalibrate the quantum resonance chamber? I'm getting some unusual readings, Vexi called out, her 4 slender fingers tapping anxiously against the console. BX Sky, a maintenance technician with metallic green scales and perpetually narrowed eyes, shuffled over. Protocol dictates recalibration requires form ACS 4701B, submitted in triplicate, he stated flatly, already pulling up the holographic form interface. Override protocol with emergency clause. Scanner shows a level 8.7 entity signature. The room went silent. Level 8.7. A Vorthark, one of the most feared predators in the known galaxy, classified under extreme biological hazard with territory-marking tendencies. Creatures that had single-handedly decimated colonial outposts. Beings that secreted acid, capable of dissolving reinforced neutronium. Hunters that could track prey across 17 dimensions of spacetime. But that wasn't what troubled Vexi. The scanner also shows something else. A life form, sentient, classification, minimal threat. Impossible, BX Sky whispered, his scales paling to a sickly yellow. Nothing survives in proximity to a Vorthark. Run diagnostics. Already running. 3rd cycle. Still the same result. Cathara, Vexi's young assistant with large reflective eyes, whispered from her station. Could it be a malfunction? The ACS cannot be wrong. It is the foundation of our ordered galaxy. ACS cannot be wrong, BX Sky echoed automatically, the mantra ingrained from primary education. Vexi stared at the incomprehensible readings. According to everything they knew, the 2 signatures couldn't exist simultaneously. A Vorthark would have torn apart any minimal threat entity within moments of detection. Regulations require immediate retreat and request for specialized intervention teams, BX Sky recited, already beginning the emergency evacuation checklist. Vexi hesitated, her finger hovering over the retreat confirmation button. Something about this anomaly tugged at her scientific curiosity, the kind of curiosity the Tethkari species had nearly eliminated through generations of procedural conditioning. There's a contingency clause, she said slowly. Clause 47B, subsection 9. In cases of unprecedented anomalies that defy standard classification, a preliminary assessment team may be deployed at discretion of ranking officer, provided proper documentation is filed. BX Sky's mouth opened and closed repeatedly. That's the Chaos Clause. It hasn't been invoked in 738 years. I'm invoking it now, Vexi stated with newfound determination. Prepare the landing shuttle. Minimal team, myself, 2 security officers, and emergency medical personnel. Cathara, prepare the contingency documentation. As the team assembled in the shuttle bay, Vexi couldn't help but notice how the security officers kept checking and rechecking their regulation stun batons, knowing full well such weapons would be utterly useless against a Vorthark. The emergency medical technician, a pale blue quilnarian with 6 limbs, specialized for trauma care, was whispering prayers to the mathematical constants. The descent to the third moon of Kepler 442c was tense and silent. Save for the occasional beep of the scanner confirming the dual readings, remained unchanged. The moon's surface was harsh and primal, jutting rock formations interspersed with dense patches of alien vegetation. As they approached the anomaly location, the security officers took flanking positions, their movements stiff with fear rather than training. They crested a small ridge and there, in a clearing, they saw it. The Vorthark, or what remained of it. The enormous creature, easily twice the size of their shuttle, lay broken and twisted, its exoskeleton cracked open. The exposed flesh was dissolving in its own acidic blood, creating steaming puddles that etched intricate patterns into the rocky ground. And beside it, sleeping peacefully on a small patch of moss, untouched by the acid, was a human female. She looked utterly serene, her chest rising and falling in the rhythm of deep sleep, one arm tucked beneath her head as a makeshift pillow. She wore simple clothing, sturdy boots, practical pants with multiple pockets, and a jacket that had seen better days. Nothing about her suggested advanced weaponry or defensive capabilities. Vexy's scanner still insisted, minimal threat. The security officers froze in place. The medical technician began quietly sobbing, murmuring about the poor, tortured soul of the mighty Vorthark. "Impossible," BX Sky whispered, for the 14th time since they had detected the anomaly. As if on cue, the human stirred. She sat up, stretched her arms overhead with a yawn that displayed no visible enhancements or defensive modifications, and blinked sleepily at the assembled alien delegation. "Oh, hello," she said in perfectly standard galactic common. "You wouldn't happen to know where I could get a cup of coffee around here, would you?" The first security officer fainted. The second dropped his stun baton, which discharged against a rock, temporarily blinding the medical technician who screamed about Judgment Day frequencies. Vexy simply stared, scanner still clutched in her trembling hands. "What? How? The Vorthark," she finally managed to stammer. The human woman glanced casually at the dissolving corpse beside her. "Oh, that thing. It tried to eat me while I was setting up camp." She shrugged as if discussing a mild inconvenience. "I had to defend myself." "Defend? With what weapon system?" Vexy asked, frantically adjusting her scanner to detect hidden arsenals or biological enhancements. "No weapons? Just applied leverage and basic anatomy." The woman stood, brushing dust from her clothing. "Look, I'm really sorry about the mess. I was hoping to get some rest before heading back. I have a dentist appointment next Tuesday that I really can't miss. Plus, I need to feed my cat." The security officers, medical technician, and BX Sky all backed away simultaneously. Vexy remained rooted in place, her scientific mind refusing to accept what she was witnessing. "You killed a level 8.7 threat entity with your bare hands because of a dentist appointment." "Well, not because of the appointment," the woman clarified reasonably. "Because it was trying to eat me. The appointment is just why I need to get back on schedule." She glanced hopefully at the shuttle. "Is that your ship? Any chance you could give me a lift? And seriously, coffee would be amazing right now." The interrogation, officially classified as a voluntary information exchange, lasted 17 hours aboard the Prudent Inquiry. The human sat comfortably in the containment chamber, designed to hold entities up to threat level 7.3, answering questions between complaints about the ship's lack of coffee. "Please state your name and origin for the 34th time," Vexy requested, recording device at the ready. "Still the same as the previous 33 times," the woman replied patiently. "I'm human, from Earth." I work as an accountant. I was camping. I don't have any special weapons or abilities. I just defended myself." "Impossible," BX Sky muttered from the corner, where he had been standing for the entire duration, unwilling to approach the containment field. "How exactly did you neutralize the Vorthark?" Vexi asked again, rephrasing the question slightly, in hopes of revealing some hidden truth. The woman sighed. "It charged at me. I sidestepped, grabbed what I'm guessing was a nerve cluster, near what seemed like a joint, and applied pressure while leveraging its own momentum. It basically tore itself apart. Look, I took a self-defense class years ago. I'm not some super soldier." Vexi's recording device buzzed with an incoming transmission. Reports of their discovery were spreading through official channels, each retelling becoming more elaborate than the last. "The human sacrificed herself to destroy the Vorthark with her bare hands," one report claimed. "The sleeper beside the apex predator, as she shall henceforth be known, emitted a frequency that shattered the Vorthark's crystalline neural network." Another stated with complete conviction, "Sources confirm she consumed parts of the creature to absorb its power." A third report announced, despite no evidence supporting such a claim. By the time the prudent inquiry returned to the nearest Union outpost, 17 different diplomatic vessels were waiting to greet them, each representing a faction with its own agenda regarding the human. The Zephyrian Empire claimed she was the Harmonic Guardian because they believed she contained some kind of advanced sonic capabilities. The Interlink Trade Consortium demanded she join as their network security icon to ensure the safety of commercial vessels. The Cosmic Harmony. Faith ordained her as the deity of valiant courage, teaching all species the divine gospel of survival equilibrium. The Philosophical Council hastily organized an emergency symposium on the existential crisis of casual violence. The scientific academies rapidly secured funding for laboratories to research applied leverage mechanics in biological conflicts. Meanwhile, the human woman sat in an upgraded containment suite, repeatedly asking about coffee and expressing concern about missing her dentist appointment. The emergency session of the Galactic Council was convened on the 43rd hour after discovery. General Keth Baran of the Hegemony Military stood before the assembled representatives, his expression grim. If a single human could defeat a Vorthark classification 8.7 with nothing but bare hands, what does this tell us about their species? Do they possess ultimate personal weaponry? Are they uncontrollable genetic mutations? Are they the biological equivalent of a doomsday device? Professor Yandra, head of the Philosophical Council, raised her 7 appendages in sequence. "Perhaps we are asking the wrong questions. What does it mean for our understanding of violence when a being can so casually end a life that our entire union has feared for millennia? Does this human represent a new paradigm of existential threat?" Dr. Philant Tarnas, xenobiologist extraordinaire, adjusted his viewing apparatus. "My preliminary analysis suggests the human may possess unique biological properties we must study. I request immediate funding for a comprehensive research facility with the human as primary subject." The debate raged for days. Meanwhile, 17 diplomatic fleets had grown to 34, then 68, creating an unprecedented ceremonial space traffic jam in orbit around the outpost. Each faction insisted the human must serve their cause, regardless of her own wishes to simply return to Earth in time for her appointment. The Zephyrians performed sonic harmonization rituals outside her containment suite. The Trade Consortium presented elaborate contract offers, with signing bonuses that included premium caffeine substitutes. Religious zealots gathered to witness her divine sleeping patterns. Military strategists analyzed every recorded movement for evidence of combat techniques. On the 7th day, the Galactic Insurance Regulatory Board, GIRB, intervened. Q. Morrell, a veteran investigator with the GIRB, coordinated the response. With centuries of experience resolving the galaxy's most complex disputes, Q recognized that the situation had progressed beyond rational management. This jurisdictional conflict threatens to destabilize 7 sectors. Q explained to the assembled faction representatives. We propose a comprehensive settlement agreement. The final agreement designated the human as a galactic protected entity, a classification created specifically for her. It granted her legal immunity, free travel privileges, comprehensive insurance coverage for any offline incidents, and a generous pension. In return, she would occasionally attend ceremonial functions for various factions, maximum 1 per quarter, provide practical solution advice when requested, and submit brief quarterly reports confirming she was still alive and not spawning new threats. 6 months later, the human had established a unique galactic retirement plan. Her monthly reports were succinct and often humorous. Still alive. No entities neutralized this month. Coffee not found in 17 star systems. Suggest infrastructure upgrades. She continued her journey through the universe, occasionally camping in prearranged wilderness areas with dignified escort fleets standing by. Whenever an extraterrestrial cafe opened for business, she would visit, an essential part of her itinerary. The Galactic Union had initially wanted to turn her into a weapon, a deity, or a security symbol. Instead, they ended up with a royal tourist with maximum protection status, proving that sometimes, amid hundreds of councils and thousands of departments, an ordinary human could simply do what she wanted. The universe, with all its elaborate classification systems and protocols, had to adapt. The woman sipped her latest attempt at coffee, a bioluminescent brew from the Andromeda outpost, and smiled. She had finally made it back to her dentist appointment, 3 months late, but with a permission slip signed by 67 galactic diplomats. Her cat, now famous throughout 3 spiral arms of the galaxy as the Guardian's domestic sentinel, purred contentedly beside her. Life was strange, but the pension was excellent. I suppose, she mused to no one in particular. This beats accounting. As the prudent inquiry continued its patrol route, now famous as the vessel that discovered the sleeper, Vexi had been promoted 7 ranks and given her own research division. Her latest project, designing a new classification system that could account for entities that defied classification. So far, she had produced 17,000 pages of preliminary analysis and 1 simple conclusion, stamped with the highest security clearance. Some things cannot be classified, especially if they ask for coffee. The universe, it seemed, had learned a valuable lesson. Meanwhile, on Earth, a minor clerical error in the Galactic Union's vast bureaucracy had gone unnoticed. The ACS had finally processed the woman's full classification, updating her status from minimal threat to something far more specific. Human, female, occupation, accountant, threat level, incalculable when coffee deprived. BX Sky, now head of the Emergency Response Protocol Committee, insisted on adding 1 final note to the official record. Impossible but verified. The Galactic Union continued its meticulous administration of countless star systems. But a small amendment had been made to the Advanced Classification System. Beneath the elaborate threat scale, a simple asterisk had been added. Classifications subject to revision upon encountering entities that request coffee. In the vastness of space, amid the complexity of galactic bureaucracy, sometimes the simplest solutions were the most effective. And sometimes, all it took was 1 woman asking for coffee to change the universe's understanding of what was possible. The woman had shown the galaxy that beyond the forms, regulations, and classifications, there existed something far more powerful, the unpredictable nature of life itself. As she filed her quarterly report, still alive, found decent coffee on Proxima Centauri outpost, recommend expanded menu options. 17 different departments scrambled to analyze the implications of her coffee preferences on interstellar relations. Meanwhile, she simply enjoyed her drink, made her dental appointment, and fed her cat, proving that even in the face of galactic significance, everyday concerns remained paramount. And perhaps that was the greatest lesson of all. The Vorthark species, upon learning of their apex predator's defeat, had collectively retreated deeper into uncharted space, leaving behind a single message in crude galactic common. We acknowledge the Guardian. We will return when we evolve better joints. Life in the galaxy continued, slightly more chaotic, significantly more caffeinated, and infinitely more interesting than before. For in the end, it wasn't advanced weaponry, complex regulations, or elaborate classification systems that changed the universe. It was a simple human being who just wanted a decent cup of coffee. And perhaps that was exactly what the universe needed. The alert came through on a routine Tuesday. Vexi, now Admiral of the Exploratory Fleet, received the notification with a sense of dread she hadn't felt in years. "Impossible," she whispered, echoing her old colleague's favorite word. The scanner readings showed multiple Vorthark signatures. Not one, but 17, converging on an uninhabited moon in Sector 921 Alpha. And among them, a single human life sign, classified as minimal threat. "Prepare my personal shuttle," Vexi commanded. "Priority override. No security team." Her aide looked alarmed. "Admiral, regulations require—" "I'm invoking Clause 47B, Subsection 9, Vexi interrupted. And Subsection 10, Coffee Contingency." The shuttle launched immediately. Upon landing, Vexi wasn't surprised to find the human woman sitting calmly amid the bodies of 17 Vortharks, drinking from a thermos. "They evolved better joints," the woman explained with a shrug. "But they still have the same nerve clusters." Vexi simply nodded and sat beside her. "Is that actual coffee?" The woman smiled and offered the thermos. "Earth-grown. Want some?" "Admiral Vexi, decorated officer of the Galactic Union, recipient of 73 commendations for adherence to protocol. Did something unprecedented." She ignored all regulations, accepted the thermos, and took a sip. "I think I understand now," she said after a moment. The human raised an eyebrow. "Understand what?" "Why some things cannot be classified." Together, they sat in companionable silence, sharing coffee amid the dissolving bodies of the galaxy's most feared predators, while somewhere, in the vast bureaucracy of the Galactic Union, 17 new forms were being created to document this unprecedented breach of protocol. And somehow, it all made perfect sense. The news spread quickly through official channels. "Admiral Vexi compromised. Coffee contamination suspected. Harmonious Guardian neutralizes Vorthark evolution attempt. Breaking. Coffee. Now classified Level 10. Threat to galactic order." The Galactic Council convened an emergency session, the third in what was now being called the Human Incident Timeline. General Keth Boren, his uniform now adorned with even more elaborate insignia, addressed the assembly. "We face an unprecedented escalation. Not only has the human demonstrated continued ability to neutralize Vortharks, but she has now compromised one of our highest-ranking officials with a substance known as coffee." Professor Yandra, whose philosophical treatise, On Sleeping Near That Which You Have Destroyed, had become required reading at 17 universities, raised her appendages for attention. "Perhaps we are witnessing the natural evolution of our relationship with the unpredictable. Perhaps Admiral Vexi is not compromised but enlightened." Dr. Falant Tarnas, now director of the Human Biological Leverage Institute, interjected with characteristic practicality. "My research suggests the human's abilities may be linked to this coffee substance. I request immediate funding to study its properties." The debate might have continued indefinitely, if not for the arrival of Q. Morel, now promoted to High Arbitrator of Exceptional Circumstances. "The Galactic Protected Entity has fulfilled all obligations under our agreement," Q stated firmly. "She has attended ceremonies, provided advice, and submitted quarterly reports. She has not violated any terms." "But she has influenced an admiral," General Kethbaran protested. By offering a beverage, Q replied calmly, our agreement does not prohibit beverage sharing. After 73 hours of heated debate, a new amendment was added to the agreement. The galactic protected entity may share beverages at her discretion, provided recipients are informed of potential perception-altering effects. Meanwhile, on a small outpost near the edge of explored space, Admiral Vexy and the human woman were establishing the galaxy's first coffee cultural exchange program. I still don't understand how you defeat Vorthark so easily, Vexy admitted as she sipped her fourth cup of the day. The woman shrugged. It's not about strength. It's about paying attention to what matters. Vortharks are terrifying because everyone focuses on their acid blood and multiple limbs. Nobody notices the small, vulnerable spot where their neural clusters connect. Like focusing on threat classifications instead of individual characteristics, Vexy mused. Exactly, the woman smiled. Sometimes the most important details are the ones nobody bothers to document. The Coffee Cultural Exchange program expanded to 34 outposts within a year. Attendance by high-ranking officials was officially discouraged, yet mysteriously widespread. The humans' quarterly reports evolved slightly. Still alive. Coffee program expanding nicely. Cat enjoys zero-gravity environments. Still making dental appointments. As the program expanded, a curious phenomenon emerged. Outposts participating in the coffee exchange reported 73% fewer bureaucratic delays, 86% reduction in unnecessary form filing, and a 94% increase in practical problem solving. The Galactic Council, alarmed by these statistics, dispatched investigators who invariably returned as enthusiastic coffee converts. By the 5th anniversary of the human incident, coffee had become the unofficial beverage of pragmatic decision-making throughout the Union. Meetings that once required 17 forms to convene now happened spontaneously over steaming cups, with solutions emerging before paperwork could be processed. The human, now affectionately known throughout the galaxy as the Coffee Guardian, though she still insisted on being called by her actual name, had unintentionally sparked a bureaucratic revolution, not through violence or policy, but through the simple act of sharing a beverage and conversation. The Vortharks, in an unprecedented evolutionary leap, developed diplomatic representatives who requested coffee negotiations. Their first communiqué simply stated, "We wish to understand what makes the Guardian strong. We bring better cups." Life in the Galactic Union would never be the same. The advanced classification system, once the cornerstone of galactic order, was gradually supplemented by what became known as the coffee consultation approach, addressing each situation on its unique merits, rather than predetermined categories. Admiral Vexy, in her landmark address to the Academy of Galactic Administration, summarized the transformation. For millennia, we sought to classify, categorize, and control the universe through elaborate systems. We created forms for every contingency except the most important one, the contingency that our system itself might be incomplete. It took a human asking for coffee to show us that the universe is not a catalog to be ordered, but a conversation to be had. The human herself remained largely unchanged by her galactic celebrity. She still made her dental appointments, still fed her cat, now the official, feline ambassador to the Union, and still camped occasionally on remote moons, though now with an excellent coffee supply and significantly fewer predator interruptions. When asked by an eager xenoanthropology student how she had managed to transform the galaxy's most rigid bureaucracy, she replied with characteristic simplicity, "I didn't set out to change anything. I just wanted a decent cup of coffee and to get home for my appointments. Everything else just sort of happened because people were so busy with their protocols that they forgot to see what was actually in front of them." The student, appropriately impressed, immediately published a 73-page analysis titled Unintentional Revolution: Coffee as Catalyst for Bureaucratic Paradigm Shifts. The human read it, smiled, and filed it away with her collection of increasingly elaborate ceremonial coffee cups, presented by various galactic dignitaries. Meanwhile, deep in the archives of the Galactic Union, the original incident report from the Prudent Inquiry remained, its final notation, added by BX Sky, still perfectly preserved. Impossible, but verified. To which someone, suspiciously similar to Admiral Vexy's handwriting, had added a single word: coffee. And somehow, that explained everything. 10 years after what was now officially termed first contact with the coffee entity, the Galactic Union had transformed in ways no one could have predicted. The advanced classification system still existed, but had been restructured to include what was called the coffee corollary. All classifications are provisional and subject to revision upon direct observation and conversation, preferably over beverages. Bureaucratic efficiency had increased exponentially. Forms that once required 17 signatures now needed only 3. Meetings that previously lasted for days concluded in hours. Problems that would have generated committees, subcommittees, and meta-committees were now solved through direct communication. The human woman, whose influence had spread far beyond her modest intentions, had settled into a comfortable routine. She divided her time between Earth, where she still kept her dental appointments with religious regularity, and her galactic coffee tour, visiting outposts throughout the Union to share her beverage and simple wisdom. Her cat, now officially the longest-lived feline in recorded history, thanks to advanced Union medical care, accompanied her everywhere, wearing a tiny custom environment suit that had become a fashion trend among 17 species. On the 10th anniversary of her discovery beside the Vorthark corpse, a ceremony was held, not by the Union's decree, but by spontaneous agreement among thousands of worlds. It was called, simply, Coffee Day. Admiral Vexy, serving as Master of Ceremonies, addressed the gathered representatives. 10 years ago, our Union encountered something we could not classify. We tried to make it fit our understanding: a weapon, a deity, a security symbol. We created forms and protocols and debates. And all the while, what we really needed was to sit down, have a cup of coffee, and simply talk. The human, looking slightly uncomfortable with the attention but appreciative of the excellent coffee served at the event, offered her own brief remarks. I never meant to change anything. I just believe in treating every situation as it comes, not as you expect it to be. Sometimes the scariest things have simple solutions if you're willing to look past your fear. And everything is better with good coffee. As the ceremony concluded, an unexpected visitor arrived, a Vorthark diplomatic representative, evolved far beyond its predatory ancestors. It presented the human with a gift, a perfectly preserved nerve cluster crystal set in an elegant coffee cup. We learn, the Vorthark stated simply. We adapt. We now drink coffee before deciding to eat someone. The human accepted the gift with grace. That's all anyone can really ask for. Later that evening, as Admiral Vexy and the human shared a quiet moment away from the celebration, Vexy asked the question that had puzzled her for a decade. Did you know what would happen? Did you intend to transform our entire Union? The human smiled and shook her head. I just wanted to get back to my dentist appointment. Everything else was just people being people, or aliens being aliens, I suppose. And the Vortharks? How did you know how to defeat them? I paid attention. While everyone else was running away or firing weapons or filing reports about how dangerous they were, I just looked, really looked. Their strength was obvious, but so was their weakness. That's true of most things. I've found. Admiral Vexy nodded thoughtfully. Including bureaucracies. Especially bureaucracies. The human raised her coffee cup in a toast. To seeing what's actually there, not what you expect to see. As they sipped their coffee, 17 shooting stars streaked across the sky. A cosmic coincidence that would nonetheless be documented in at least 73 spiritual texts as the Coffee Guardian's celestial affirmation. The human just enjoyed the view. In the vast archives of the Galactic Union, a new wing had been established. The Coffee Protocols, dedicated to preserving the simple wisdom that had transformed their civilization. Look closely. Keep it simple. Talk directly. Remember what matters. And at the very end, a final notation. If possible, bring coffee. The universe, it seemed, would never be the same. And all because they found her sleeping beside a predator's body, asking for coffee. Some revolutions begin with a bang. This one began with a brew. And perhaps that made all the difference. 30 years after first contact, the human woman, now in her later years but still remarkably spry, thanks to the Union's advanced medical care, prepared for what she announced would be her final galactic coffee tour. "I'm not getting any younger," she explained to Admiral Vexy, now retired and serving as her traveling companion. "And while your medical technology is impressive, I'd like my last few years to be quiet ones. Back on Earth, with my cats." The original cat had long since passed, but a succession of feline companions had continued the tradition, each one becoming an honorary ambassador of earthly comfort. The farewell tour spanned 34 worlds, across 17 sectors. On each planet, representatives gathered not with elaborate ceremonies, but with simple coffee shares, the ritual that had become the cornerstone of Union diplomacy. On the final stop, the entire Galactic Council assembled, not in their formal chamber, but in a vast garden specially designed to resemble an Earth park, complete with benches and coffee carts. General Kethborin, now ancient but still formidable, approached the human with uncharacteristic humility. 30 years ago, I advocated for classifying you as a weapon of mass destruction, he admitted. I was incorrect. The human smiled. You were doing your job as you understood it. No hard feelings. Professor Yandra, whose philosophical works now filled entire libraries, presented the human with a bound collection of her writings. Your existence has given us 30 years of philosophical quandaries, she said with genuine appreciation. We may never solve them all, but the conversation has been invaluable. Dr. Philant Tarnas, whose research had evolved from studying the human to understanding the power of observational wisdom, offered a simple nod of respect. You taught us to look beyond our instruments and theories, he acknowledged. Science is better for it. Q. Morel, whose arbitration methods had revolutionized galactic dispute resolution, presented the human with her final pension statement, a sum so astronomical it would support not just her, but her descendants for generations. The terms of our agreement have been fulfilled beyond all expectations, Q stated formally. The Union expresses its profound gratitude. As the farewells continued, a commotion at the edge of the gathering drew attention. A delegation of Vortharks, not diplomats, but warriors, approached with deliberate steps. Security personnel tensed, but the human waved them back. The lead Vorthark, larger and more imposing than any previously documented, stopped before the human and lowered itself in what could only be described as a bow. We come to honor the Coffee Guardian, it announced in perfect galactic common. Our species has evolved. We no longer hunt sentience. We now protect because of you. From its elaborate exoskeletal compartment, the Vorthark produced a small object, a perfectly preserved nerve cluster, set in a crystalline structure. The last hunter who fell by your hand, the Vorthark explained. We keep it as reminder. Look closely, see weakness, improve, choose better path. The human accepted the gift with visible emotion. That's the wisest thing I've ever heard. We learned from best teacher, the Vorthark replied. The one who slept beside our fallen, who asked for coffee instead of showing fear. As the gathering concluded, the human addressed the assembled representatives one final time. I came to your galaxy by accident. I defended myself by necessity. I asked for coffee out of habit. Everything else, everything you've built and changed and improved, that was all you. You didn't need me to show you a better way. You just needed permission to try." She raised her coffee cup in a final toast. To looking closely, to simple solutions, to seeing what's actually there, and to really good coffee. When she returned to Earth for the last time, she brought with her a legacy that spanned the stars. The Galactic Union established coffee academies on thousands of worlds, teaching not just the art of brewing the perfect cup, but the wisdom of direct observation, practical solutions, and bureaucratic restraint. The ACS, once the cornerstone of galactic order, had been fundamentally transformed. While still maintaining necessary classifications for genuine threats, it now included the mandatory coffee consultation for any entity above Level 5, requiring direct observation and communication before final classification. In her final years, the human lived quietly in a small cottage by the sea, drinking coffee on her porch each morning, watching the waves, and occasionally looking up at the stars. Whenever a new cat adopted her, for it was always the cats who chose, never the other way around. Union representatives would arrive discreetly to register the feline as an official comfort ambassador. On her 93rd birthday, she received a final communication from Admiral Vexi. The Union has officially renamed Sector 847 Zeta. It is now the Coffee Guardian Reserve. No hunting permitted, only camping and coffee. The human smiled at this news, sipped her morning brew, and scratched her latest cat behind the ears. "Not bad for an accountant," she murmured to herself. When she passed peacefully in her sleep several years later, the news traveled faster than light across the galaxy. Memorial coffee services were held on millions of worlds. The Vorthark Protection Fleet established a permanent honor guard in orbit around Earth. And in the great archive of the Galactic Union, her complete story was preserved, beginning with the original incident report, filed by the Prudent Inquiry, with its simple notation, "Impossible but verified," to which had been added, over the years, 3 more words. Coffee changes everything. The universe, forever transformed by one human's simple request, continued its endless dance among the stars, more efficient now, more practical, more willing to look closely at what was actually there, not what was expected, and significantly better caffeinated. For in the end, the greatest revolutions don't begin with manifestos or declarations. They begin with simple moments of human connection. Or in this case, a woman waking up beside a predator's body and asking for coffee. Some called it destiny. Others called it random chance. The human herself had always maintained it was just common sense. Perhaps they were all correct. Perhaps that was the point all along.